The more you walk this road, the farther you are from the ordinary ways of society. You may see the truth, but you will find that people would rather listen to politicians, performers, and charlatans. Good morning, everybody. That is a quote from Deng Ming Dao from a book called 365 Tao. And that is a quote that we are opening the show with today. Welcome to the All Around Growth Podcast. This is a show focused on building the lives of our dreams. My name is Rob Kaiser, and I am your host. As you can hear in the background, the windshield wipers are working in full force this morning. It's a chilly morning. We are actively in the process of moving from winter into spring. We've got some cold, frosty mornings as the days are getting warmer and the snow begins to melt. This is the 106th episode of the All Around Growth Podcast. And the topic of today's show is I'm not sure. Okay, we're going to talk a little bit about Taoism, and we're also going to talk a little bit more about the human spiritual animal. Okay, why are we going down this road again? Here's why. I couldn't come up with a show topic today. I was excited for the show. My mind oftentimes in the morning races. I'm full of ideas, and ideas that I want to share with you and many others, because I think if we all take some kind of action doing something, that we can make and create healthy, positive, and beneficial change in the world, beginning with ourselves. And we need that. I just lost my show notes. So, bear with me 1 second, please. They're gone. Okay, here we are. I'm on a second phone right now. Okay, for those of you who are new to the show and are trying to figure out what's going on, here's the deal. We do this podcast routinely every morning on my commute to work. The reason why I'm doing this podcast and the whole objective is the podcast is, like I said, I am focused on building the life of my dreams. I don't know how that's going to shake out. The only constants in life are change, death, and taxes. Everything else is subject to change and will. So be prepared for that. But like I said, I couldn't come up with a show. I had a lot of things that I want to address and talk about. I've got a lot of notes, but as I went through the morning ritual that I normally do, I decided to pick up a book called 365 Tao. That's a book written by Deng Ming Dao. And after reading the daily meditation of the day, and when I read that quote, I realized that that's it. And that's what we need to talk about today. So we are going to talk about Taoism, among other things. So let's just get right into it. For those of you who are interested in that morning ritual, I have linked to that in the show notes. I talked about my morning ritual in the 11th episode of the podcast. That episode is titled My Morning Ritual. And before I start rambling on about Taoism and such, I'd like to welcome all the new listeners to the show. I stepped outside of my comfort zone yesterday and put the word out there in a number of different platforms, groups, and I put myself out there in an effort to grow the audience. And subsequently, we have some new listeners, some new people in the group. Sean, Letty, welcome. I'm glad you're with us. James, you also messaged me yesterday, and I will be looking into Pocket Casts for you. We are listed there. I messaged you back, and we will continue to work through new podcast players to get the word out there in whatever platform is best suited for you. If there are some platforms that you use where you'd like to see the podcast listed, but you think that it is not, drop me a line at Rob Kaiser on Telegram or allaroundgrowth@gmail.com, and we'll look into it and figure it out. All right, Taoism is a philosophical tradition of Chinese origin which emphasizes living in harmony with the Tao. The Tao is a fundamental idea in most Chinese philosophical schools. In Taoism, however, it denotes the principle that is the source, pattern, and substance of everything that exists. That is straight out of Wikipedia. If you want to learn more and go down some clicky wormholes, follow the links in the show notes. I've also spoken a little bit more extensively about my history with spirituality and Taoism as well in episodes 8 and 9, titled Spirituality 1.0 and Spirituality 2.0, along with episode number 95, titled Spirituality. So, why all the spiritual talk? Well, as I've mentioned in other past episodes, part of the way that I'm actively building the life of my dreams is through the utilization of 7 categories that I am setting goals in, one of which is in the spiritual realm, things that fall under the spiritual umbrella. And I choose to focus on this in my life because I believe that as humans, we are increasingly misguided. What do I mean by that? Well, spirituality is something that defines us from other primates. See? And this is something that I recently talked about in episode 96, titled The Human Social Creature. And in the notes, and in that episode, we read that humans uniquely use systems of symbolic communications such as language and art to express themselves and exchange ideas, as well as to organize themselves into purposeful groups. Humans create complex social structures composed of many cooperating and competing groups, from families and kinship networks to political states. And again, that is another quote from Wikipedia. All of this is linked in the show notes. I would encourage you to check out the show notes. I try to make them as comprehensive as possible so that you can go down the same wormholes that I do, if you choose. Now, we read about these social structures that humans create and engage in. And what's interesting is that we allow these social structures in our families and our networks, and especially our political states, to divide us. Let's look at that opening quote again. Quote, "The more you walk this road, the farther you are from the ordinary ways of society. You may see the truth, but you will find that people would rather listen to politicians, performers, and charlatans." So I have a couple questions for you, my friends. Where do you find the truth? How are you living the truth that you see in your own life? Windows are so frosty, I gotta roll them down. And why do you wish to seek the truth instead of listening to politicians, performers, and charlatans? Why is that important to you? I know why it's important to me. That's why we're having this conversation right now. Perhaps it's important to you because you too seek the Tao. Maybe you don't know it. See, I'm challenged and I'm frustrated by a lot of what I see in the world, because we have so much potential in ourselves, in our communities, and what do we do with it? Now, in large part, we squander it. We take it for granted. I mean, for example, you and I are communicating and connecting right now. Okay, I mean, think about that. You're hearing my voice stream into your ears in this moment, and you've actively made a choice to participate in life with me right here, right now. You, in this moment, are not squandering the potential that life has to offer you. Okay? Understand that. And if you're having a rough day, as we all do at times, and today may be one of those times for you, take solace in the fact that you are actively taking steps in your life to create a life that is more healthy, positive, and beneficial than the life you've led to date. You are actively trying to make improvements in your life, and you should be proud of that. Are you perfect? Hell no. Neither am I. But you know what? Life isn't about perfection. It's about progress. It's about growth. You're either growing or you're dying. I had an old boss that used to tell me that, and I used to hate it. And I'd think about it repeatedly for years. And then finally it clicked. If you're not growing, you're dying. And collectively, societally, my friends, I'm afraid we're dying. So what are you going to do to continue the growth and development that you've started a long time ago? I don't know. I can't answer that for you. I can answer that for me, and I'm not going to get into that right now. But I assure you that the more you walk this road, the farther you are from the ordinary ways of society. You may see the truth, but you will find that people would rather listen to politicians, performers, and charlatans. You are not those people. The things that we seek that we cannot articulate, maybe that is the secret of the Tao. I understand that I was kind of all over the map this morning, and I wrote up some of these show notes this morning with the intent to speak on Taoism, but by the time I concluded the end of my show notes, I realized that my thought pattern was going in a bit of a different direction than purely Taoist thought. Anyways, while I'm a little bit scattered this morning with my thoughts, I hope that you enjoyed what you heard. And if you did, I would encourage you to go to the show notes, and you can find links to everything I previously mentioned had links, as well as links to all of the episodes that I've ever done. Easily accessible, right there. Click, point, go, listen. Share with your friends, share with your family, share on social media. There's links to where we are on Facebook, Twitter, and Telegram. At this point in time, that's where we're at. Not very active on Facebook, but we've got a group there, and some people are. Some people aren't. I probably ought to, since this is my podcast, but I don't know. I'm not. And maybe we can talk more about that later. Anyways, if you have any questions or feedback for me, feel free to drop me a line at allaroundgrowth@gmail.com. I love hearing from you. There's a lot of you guys out there that I interact with on a regular basis. Andy, you're the man. I appreciate all the feedback that you've given me over the months, and who knows how long it's been when you first tuned in. This podcast dates back, kind of has its roots in late 2020 or late 2019, early 2020, and then I revisited it, brought it back to life in the latter part of 2020, and here we are in February of 2021. I'm excited for the future. I'm excited to share it with you. And I'm very grateful that you've spent your time with me today here on the show. This is Rob Kaiser, and thank you.